Hi everyone, my name is Kassi Reyes, IBCLC and mom, and today I wanted to share some insights to help you understand the ins and outs of lactation if you have a baby with a cleft lip, a cleft palate, or both. So let's dive in. First, let's talk a bit about what it means when a baby has a cleft palate. These conditions involve a discontinuity in the lip, or a connection between the oral and the nasal cavities. If your child has this, don't worry, surgical repairs are often available and they can really work wonders. These repairs usually happen within 18 months of life, and the lip is usually commonly repaired before the palate. So let's talk about numbers for a second. The worldwide prevalence of a cleft lip or a cleft palate is between 0.8 and 2.7 cases per 1,000 live births. Remember, these rates can vary across different racial groups and geographical locations. It's important to know that about half of infants with cleft lip and or cleft palate have both. The rest have either an isolated cleft palate or an isolated cleft lip. Lactation is still very important when it comes to caring for our infants with cleft lip and or cleft palate. So here's the scoop. Babies with isolated cleft lip can often nurse successfully because they can generate suction and negative pressure, which draws the milk out. However, for those with cleft palate or both the cleft lip and cleft palate, lactation can be a little bit trickier. They might face challenges like feeding fatigue, nasal regurgitation where the milk kind of goes back up into their nose, insufficient milk transfer, which can affect their growth and their nutrition. So let's get into the good stuff. Let's talk about that stuff that's going to help you navigate this journey with confidence. First and foremost, I want to let you know that nursing and providing human milk whenever possible it's like liquid gold. We've talked about it in so many of my videos, and it doesn't change for these kiddos. It's packed with amazing benefits for the baby's health, for their development, and it's especially beneficial for infants with cleft lip and cleft palate. Lactation is so awesome for our little ones. And of course, feeding a baby can have its challenges, especially if we have the added challenge of a cleft. And that's why it's so important to have the right support and the right guidance. So reaching out to a lactation consultant and making sure you're working closely with other healthcare professionals who really specialize in working with babies with cleft lip and cleft palate. They can offer valuable advice. You can get tips and strategies for helping babies establish a successful lactation journey. So let's talk about some practical tips. We might need to adjust our techniques and positions to accommodate each baby's unique needs. So techniques like finger feeding, which involves letting a baby suck on your finger and using a syringe to feed them, or using special feeding devices, special bottles sometimes, or using a supplemental nursing system can be helpful. Certain nursing positions may also be helpful depending on where the cleft is located. The baby should be held in a way that the cleft is oriented towards the top of the breast. So for example, if a baby with a cleft lip on the right might feed better in a cross cradle position on the right. So I'm going to show you how that is set up. So cross cradle on the right, and maybe a football over on the left so that the cleft is facing up. For more detail in how to set up these positions, I do have a video all about the different nursing positions that you can check out. So those positions, the cross cradle on the right and a football on the left, would be vice versa if the cleft palate was on the left side. For a bilateral cleft lip, when the baby is face on or straddling, so you kind of sit the baby over your thigh and have them up and down, and really you're gonna need to support them well in this position. This sort of straddle position may be more effective than other nursing positions for a baby with a bilateral cleft lip. When infants have a cleft palate or a cleft lip and palate, positioning should be semi-upright to help reduce that nasal regurgitation that I mentioned, and to help prevent the milk from flowing back into their eustachian tubes, or the tubes of the ears. So for example, this might look like a football position. That could be more effective than doing like a cross cradle position. In addition to modifying positioning of the baby, the parent can also implement some strategies, like for infants with a cleft palate or a cleft lip and palate, the parent may support the infant's cheeks like this while they're eating to help decrease some of, and usually do it from underneath, under the chin. This can help decrease the width of the cleft, and it can help increase the closure around the nipple and around the breast tissue. For infants with a cleft palate, it might be useful to position the breast towards the greater segment of the palate, or the side of the palate that is most intact, or that has the most intact bone. So this might facilitate better generation of negative pressure, that negative pressure that's needed for milk extraction. And it will help also prevent the nipple from being pushed up into the cleft site. If the cleft is large, the breast can also be positioned downwards in the baby's mouth to stop the nipple from being pushed into the cleft. In some cases, it can be helpful to support the baby's chin. So if they're eating, kind of support under their chin like this to help stabilize the jaw during sucking, and sometimes supporting the breast as well. Especially if it's a larger, heavy breast, just holding it so that it remains in the baby's mouth better, because if you were to let go, sometimes gravity will just pull it right back out of the baby's mouth. It can also be helpful if the parent does some gentle compression to manually express milk into the baby's mouth while they're eating, to compensate for decreased suction and decreased compression with the jaw and the oral tissues. This manual expression can also help stimulate a letdown reflex. I know it all sounds pretty complicated, but the best part is that with the right guidance, you will find what works best for your baby and what works for your family. And you're not alone. You have guidance of professionals if needed. I also want to take a minute to discuss pumping. If direct nursing isn't possible, or if you need to supplement your baby's feedings, there are definitely options for this too. And pumping and expressing milk can be a great way to ensure your baby gets the amazing benefits of human milk. And it also helps you to protect your milk supply and production. It also allows others to help feeding your baby if that's something that would be helpful for you to get a little bit more rest. Pumping may end up being an integral part of your lactation experience, especially early on with a baby with a cleft lip or a cleft palate. But working with a lactation consultant who specializes in this to help you set up the ideal plan for your baby based on their needs and how effectively that they're feeding with direct nursing, and figuring out what their volume needs are, is going to be your best bet in figuring this whole thing out. Lastly, let's take a minute to talk about nourishing your baby. Sometimes, in addition to lactation or human milk, our little one might need a little additional nutrition, and your healthcare providers are going to guide you on when and how to introduce other feeding methods or supplements. And the key here is really to work together as a team and find the best approach that suits your baby and your family's needs. It's not a one fit approach for every family. Like I said, it really depends on how effective your baby is nursing, if they're able to create that negative pressure, if they're able to transfer milk, on the parent's supply, and on the baby's volume and nutritional needs. So there's so much that goes into it. Please don't try to do this alone. Please ask for help if you need it. And I really hope the video shed some light on lactation for baby with a cleft lip or a cleft palate, or both. Remember, you're not alone on this journey. There's so many people out there to help you. Please stay positive, stay informed, and just remember that you're doing an amazing job and that this is not easy for anyone. Remember, don't quit on your worst day. If you'd like to support the channel and help the videos reach families around the world, I'm going to leave the Patreon link down below so you can become a Patreon of the channel. Remember to like the video and subscribe, and I will see you guys all soon. Take care.